Cranberries have been in Wisconsin for a long time. They're actually a native fruit to North America. This is the perfect climate for cranberries, and Wisconsin is the #1 producer of cranberries in the world.
Cranberries are found here naturally. In the surrounding support land, you can find Avicennia moxococcus and macrocarpon all over the place. Originally, when the industry started, there was just gathering of what Mother Nature provided. It was discovered that if you dug a ditch and actually provided some drainage, that you could increase yields. And it was also discovered that if you flooded up and encased the vines in ice in the winter, you would have a much better survival rate for the cranberries due to our extreme cold and wind during the winter. So that's really how cultivation of the crop began, from just native gathering to impounding cranberry beds, ditching them, and creating a cranberry marsh.
Cranberries do not grow in water. They grow near water. And so we mimic ideal conditions to grow these plants where you would find cranberries growing in nature, which are in swamps and on sphagnum moss hummocks that are suspended just above the water table.
It started in central Wisconsin, in the Berlin area, and then it moved towards the Tomah, Wisconsin Rapids area. Starting in about 1870, 1880, there was some major expansion. That area of the state was Glacial Lake, Wisconsin, and had all the prerequisites that you need for good cranberry production, and that's water and sand and a good peat acidic soil.
So our farm was founded by my great-great-grandfather, Sherman Whittlesey, in 1871. So we are over 150 years old as a family farm. I'm the 5th generation to farm this land. We have currently 140 acres of cranberry vines that we harvest. When Sherman settled this farm, there were no cranberry beds. He had to cultivate them out of the natural cranberries that were growing on this property. These are the original deeds for our farm back in 1871. So part of the lore of these deeds being purchased from the state in Madison is my great-great-grandfather decided he was really interested in this property, and he also knew of other people that were interested in it. So he had heard that there were some communication going down to Madison via telegram. He decided to get on a horse and ride down, and he beat the telegram down there. Supposedly the telegram arrived the next day. So just by the speed of his horse, we are the people that got to settle this land.
Here in northern Wisconsin, after the Second World War, veterans with connections came back and looked at northern Wisconsin with our lakes and with our wetlands as the land of opportunity for expansion. So most of the cranberry marshes in this part of the state originate from the late 1940s.
Manitou's Cranberry is currently 186 acres, started in the mid-1940s right after World War II. Manitou's Waters is in north central Wisconsin. In the beginning, when my grandparents first acquired this land and started building it, there was not a road here, there was not a bridge across the river to get to the farm, there was not power lines, there was not anything, and so they had to build all those things. And this has been a successful venture now here for 75 years. We have a lot to be proud of.
The state of the cranberry industry right now is very healthy. The pandemic, one thing it did is it forced people to cook a lot more at home. We're just trying to educate people on the many, many ways you can use them to cook. Eat them fresh, eat them raw, put them in smoothies.
People are very health conscious right now as well, and cranberries are a true superfruit. They're packed with antioxidants, tons of vitamins, and just so great for all parts of your body.
Today, Wisconsin is the biggest growing region in the world and produces more processed cranberries and fresh cranberries than any other region. And if you just look at the efficiency and the sustainability of these marshes now, It's really remarkable the strides that we've all taken. So way back in the 1880s and early 1900s, everybody was fresh cranberry grower because they didn't have cranberry juice. My family really liked doing it that way, and so we just stuck with fresh. It's a little bit different than process. It's only about 3% of the market. It's a lot more labor intensive because we have to use different harvest practices. Our machines are made and designed to be very gentle with the fruit. We still use technology from the 20s in our Bailey separators that separate out rotten fruit from good fruit that bounces. And we use brand new laser technology to sort the cranberries. But then on the other hand, we also hand sort, just like we did 100 years ago. So some things have changed and some have stayed the same.
So on our farm, none of the fruit is fresh fruit. 100% of it goes to what we call processed fruit. So it's all being made into juice and dried cranberries. A lot has changed over the years with the technology used on cranberry farms. So this is one of our combination sensors. It has both air temperature sensor as well as a soil tensiometer. So we know if the plants need water or if they're too wet. And we can see a map of all of our sensors, and then we can pan between them to see what's going on out in the field. So something else that we've done out here is we've tried to automate our irrigation pumps. So we've installed these panels that can control the engines, and then we've added telemetry units to them as well as solar power with batteries, so we can control all of our irrigation systems from our phones. Using this technology, we've been able to be a lot more precise with our measurements of how much water the plants need, so we're not overusing water. But one of the biggest improvements that was made in cranberries was the wet harvesting process, the process of actually flooding the beds up so the berries could be picked and floated to the top and then gathered in an efficient manner. It's a common misconception that cranberries grow in water. We only flood them at certain times of the year, and the time most people are familiar with is harvest.
When it comes time to harvest, we will flood up the beds, we'll go in with our harrow, and the harrow just gently combs the berries right off of the vines. And after the harrow comes through, we add even more water, so all of the fruit starts floating up above the vines. They have 4 hollow chambers that create little air pockets, which allows them to float on the surface of the water. Then once all the fruit is floating on top of the water, we'll go in with corrals and kind of corral all the berries into one corner of the bed. We'll come through with our berry pump, which is essentially a giant vacuum that sucks all the berries up out of the water and kind of lifts them up into the back of a semi-trailer. And from there, they just go off to be processed.
When we initiated our business plan to go organic, our plan was to go into both the freezer sector for fruit for processing and also for fresh fruit. So we actually pick and sort for both purposes. The cranberry industry as a whole has a great story to tell in terms of land stewardship and environmental responsibility. We manage not only the cranberry beds where the crop is grown, but also the support land. And the industry has a history of being proactive in terms of doing good research and following best management practices wholesale.
It's really exciting to see how excited this generation is to being better stewards of the land. How can we take care of the land so the land is taking care of us?
As I think about my kids, I try to teach them about being responsible environmentally and responsible to the industry as a whole.
We believe firmly in science leading the way in making decisions on how to grow better.
We're just getting started when it comes to technology on the farm, specifically in how we make decisions around the farm. Not use any more water we need to, or not any more nutrients that we need to, and just to optimize that whole situation.
The advancements in being able to analyze things on a very small scale, but very quickly, That was never possible for my grandfather and my great-great-grandfather. Using technology both in the analysis of what's happening with the plants, but also using technology to drive tractors and turn on pumps, other aspects of our farm more efficiently is certainly where I see this industry going and where I hope it goes.
Cranberries have remained a specialty crop, so there's still a lot to be discovered in cranberry farming. We're regularly working with researchers at various universities, and one of the big ones that we've done is regarding different variety trials. We have 40 different test squares, each having a different variety in it. Some people don't realize this, but cranberries are just like apples. There's different varieties. There's not just one variety of cranberry. So over the years, this information has been used to optimize cranberry plants for a variety of traits, a big one being yield, how much fruit we can get per acre. Other ones might be rot resistance or optimized for certain color to make certain cranberry products.
All fruit growers really have some challenges that they have to deal with. And in cranberry, there's also a lot of challenges with pollination. As you can see, cranberry is a very big crop. There's a lot of flowers out there. And growers rely on a combination of pollinators, whether they're managed pollinators, and a lot of growers bring in honeybees for their pollination services. But there's also a lot of native bees that are around. In Wisconsin, we report something around 400 plus species of wild bees. And so one of the research projects that we've been doing is really looking at the impact that pollinator gardens might have on those wild bees in attracting wild bees. And we found that when we really look at yield, we see bigger berries when we have the pollinator gardens compared to when we don't have a pollinator garden. And maybe the complementarity of all those pollinators is going to provide an even better crop.
We've been working with a couple of UW Extension researchers. One particular example is working with 2 species of nematodes that have been isolated from soils cranberries are native to. These particular nematodes prey on some of our insect pests, and we have been working with raising them here on the property and then introducing them into our soils in order to reduce our pest pressure. What we have seen from our applications in 21 is some of our pest pressure has been dramatically decreased in 22. While this is a 1 year's worth of observational data, this basically means we can grow our own pest control. And that's pretty exciting stuff.
A lot of cranberry marshes in the state of Wisconsin are multi-generational. In fact, most of them are. It's really special.
Being 5th generation out here, learning and watching from my dad, my grandpa, and now kind of showing my son, who's a start of the 6th generation, is something that we all take very great pride in and continue to make things better than when we first started.
We still have 4 generations of our family currently living on the farm, and we've been in a transition for my wife and I to take it over, and this is the last year of the transition.
I'm the 5th generation to grow cranberries on this property, and to be able to take on the responsibility that any of the past generations have had for this farm. It feels like I am just a steward of this land. I have taken on that as a thing that is very important to me, and it certainly is a big honor.
So our farm today is run and managed by our sons. It's difficult to step back and let somebody else take over, but I'm going to keep working on the cranberry farm as long as they'll let me.